They don't call, they don't text, they act like nothing happened. But when the lights go out and the room gets quiet, your absence gets louder than they expected. That is the part nobody sees. You may think they moved on. You may think they shut the door, locked it, and never looked back. But some people do not show pain by chasing. They show it by disappearing while their mind keeps replaying what they lost. And if you have ever been confused by someone who pulled away while still feeling strangely connected to you, stay with me, because this changes everything. What looks cold is not always empty. What looks calm is not always peace. Sometimes silence is just a person fighting feelings they do not know how to hold. And the more they try to control it, the more it follows them into the one place they cannot easily escape, the night. So before you assume you meant nothing, listen closely, because what is happening inside them is far more intense than what they ever let you see. Avoidance is often misunderstood as a lack of love, a lack of care, or a lack of emotional depth. But that is usually not what it is. More often, it is a deeply built defense against emotional overload. At some earlier point in life, closeness stopped feeling simple. It started feeling heavy. Maybe connection came with pressure. Maybe being needed felt like being trapped. Maybe love became tied to guilt, tension, or the quiet fear of losing oneself. So the mind learned a rule: get close, then protect. Feel something, then pull back. Not because connection is unwanted, but because connection wakes up discomfort that feels too big to manage. This is important. The avoidant person does not erase their need for attachment. They hide it. They bury it under control, distance, and self-protection. On the outside, they can look composed, independent, even untouched. On the inside, two forces are always moving against each other. One wants warmth, one wants safety, one leans in, one pulls away. And that split creates tension that never fully goes quiet. Watch this carefully, because this is where most people get it wrong. They mistake distance for freedom, when often it is just fear dressed up as independence. At a basic human level, nobody becomes completely free from the need to be seen, known, and emotionally felt by another person. That need can be denied, it can be covered, it can be pushed out of awareness, but it does not vanish, it waits. In the avoidant person, this hidden need often sits behind a strong identity built on self-sufficiency. They may truly believe they are better off alone. They may tell themselves they do not need much. They may even feel proud of how little they seem to depend on anyone. But under that image, the original longing still lives. It keeps producing emotional energy, and that energy has to go somewhere. Since it is not allowed to come out in direct ways like honest vulnerability, steady closeness, or open confession, it finds side doors. It shows up as random thoughts about the person they tried to dismiss. It appears as a strange emptiness they cannot name. It comes as a pull toward connection followed immediately by retreat. One minute they want distance, the next minute they are checking old messages, replaying a conversation, or wondering what you are doing. It feels irrational to them, but it is not random. It is the buried attachment trying to breathe through the cracks. And the harder they push it down, the more persistent it becomes in the background. Feelings that are pushed away do not become weaker just because they are ignored. They change form. That is the part people rarely understand. Emotional repression does not create peace. It creates pressure. When a feeling is judged as too risky, too intense, or too destabilizing, the mind moves it out of direct awareness. But the feeling remains active. It keeps moving underneath the surface, looking for another way to be noticed. For someone with avoidant patterns, this happens especially with emotions linked to need, closeness, tenderness, and dependence. They can function well, they can look steady, they can sound convincing when they say they are fine. Yet inside, the nervous system may still be carrying everything that was never fully felt. This often turns into subtle anxiety, not always dramatic, not always obvious, but present. A low tension, a background restlessness, a strange irritation, a mental noise that does not have a clear name. And when they cannot link that state to the feelings they buried, it becomes even more confusing. They just know something feels off. Something keeps tapping at the door of awareness. And instead of clarity, they get unease. Instead of emotional release, they get internal friction. So no, repression is not calm. It is unspoken conflict, held so tightly that it starts leaking out in disguised ways. This becomes even stronger when the bond actually mattered. A shallow connection does not leave a deep mark. If nothing real was touched, the psyche can let it pass without much struggle. But when a person reaches something meaningful inside, the impact is different. Maybe they made the avoidant person feel understood. Maybe they brought a rare sense of emotional safety. Maybe they challenged their carefully built self-image just by seeing through it. Whatever the reason, the connection begins to matter, and that is exactly when fear can rise. Because meaning changes everything. Once a bond becomes emotionally significant, it stops being casual. It starts waking up needs, hopes, and vulnerabilities that were easier to ignore before. For the avoidant mind, this can feel dangerous. Not because the other person is dangerous, but because the closeness starts dissolving internal walls that once felt necessary for survival. Suddenly they are less in control, less defended, less able to pretend they do not care. So what happens? They often pull away right when the connection gets deeper. And this is the twist that hurts so many people. The distance does not prove the bond was weak. In many cases, it proves the bond hit something strong enough to scare them. The more meaningful it becomes, the harder it is to manage. And that is why a person can retreat while still thinking about you more than ever. Now comes the contradiction that keeps them unsettled. Closeness feels overwhelming, but distance does not bring real peace either. When intimacy starts pressing against their inner limits, space feels like relief. It feels like breathing room. It feels like getting their shape back. For a moment, stepping away restores a sense of control, but the relief is incomplete, because they are not only stepping away from another person, they are stepping away from an emotional experience that had meaning. And meaning leaves an echo. Once the silence settles, the absence is no longer neutral. It becomes charged. The mind starts revisiting moments. Small details begin glowing in memory. Their own choices start feeling uncertain. They may tell themselves they did the right thing, yet still feel disturbed by what is missing. This is the hidden cost of distance. It protects them from the intensity of closeness, but it also confronts them with the weight of absence. And both are real. That is why they often live in a loop. Too close feels unsafe. Too far feels haunting. They cannot fully return, but they cannot fully let go either. If you have ever felt that push-pull energy, this is why it happens. It is not always manipulation. Sometimes it is a person caught between two truths they do not know how to reconcile. I need space, and I miss what I left. And then night arrives. During the day, there are distractions everywhere. Work, noise, messages, tasks, movement. The outer world gives the mind many places to hide. A person can stay busy enough to avoid what is happening inside. Distance feels easier in daylight because attention keeps getting pulled outward. There is always something to do, something to answer, something to focus on other than the emotional reality they do not want to face. But night removes that structure. The room gets still, the phone gets quiet, the body slows down, and with fewer distractions, the mind has less protection. What was pushed away during the day starts coming back. Not always as a clear realization, not always as a dramatic confession. Sometimes it comes as replayed conversations, sometimes as imagined scenarios, sometimes as a heavy feeling in the chest that appears the moment everything gets silent. This is where the restless mind begins, because sleep requires surrender. It asks the person to soften, to let go, to stop controlling everything. And for someone who uses control to keep emotion at a distance, that surrender is not easy. So they lie there tired but alert, quiet on the outside and crowded on the inside. This part matters more than most people realize. Night does not create the conflict. It reveals the conflict that daylight helped them postpone. The mind has a strange loyalty to what remains unfinished. What the conscious self refuses to deal with does not simply disappear into nothing. It gets taken up by deeper layers of the psyche, where it keeps circling, looking for completion. This is why unresolved bonds return in fragments. A face appears in memory without warning. A sentence repeats itself hours later. A small moment that seemed unimportant suddenly carries emotional weight. These are not accidents. They are signs that something inside the experience was never fully processed. The avoidant person may tell themselves the story is over. They may insist there is nothing left to think about. But the deeper mind does not work by logic alone. It works by unfinished feeling, by interrupted meaning, by emotional material that never reached full awareness. So it returns, again and again, not always loudly, sometimes in a whisper, sometimes in a flash, sometimes in the middle of the night when they least want to think about you and cannot understand why you are suddenly there. Stay with this point because it explains a lot. The repetition is not proof they are weak. It is proof the experience is unresolved. Something about the bond still asks to be understood. Something was cut off too early, and until the inner conflict is named, the mind keeps looping back like a hand touching a bruise that has not healed. Sometimes the deepest disturbance is not only the loss of a person, it is what that person reflected back. Certain connections act like mirrors, not surface mirrors, not simple similarity, but deep mirrors that reveal hidden parts of the self. In your presence, they may have felt more seen than they were ready for, more emotionally open than they expected, more human, more vulnerable, more affected. And that can be powerful, but also deeply unsettling for someone who has built safety around distance. Because once another person starts reflecting the truth beneath the defenses, the old identity begins to shake. The story of being untouched no longer fits. The image of being fully independent starts cracking. They are forced to face contradictions they would rather avoid: the desire for closeness and the fear of needing it, the wish to be known and the instinct to hide, the longing to stay and the urge to disappear. When this happens, distance can feel like the fastest way to regain internal order. But the mirror effect does not vanish just because they leave. They may remove the immediate reflection, yet what was revealed remains alive inside them. That is why they replay interactions. That is why certain moments keep returning. It is not only about missing you, it is about confronting the version of themselves that appeared around you, the part they were not fully prepared to meet. And this is where silence becomes misleading. Silence makes people assume nothing is happening. But a quiet person can be carrying a very loud internal world. The avoidant individual may not speak the conflict. They may not even fully understand it in language, yet they can feel it in the body, in the mind, in the strange pull of memory that keeps interrupting ordinary moments. You may see no message, no call, no explanation. And still, inside them, there may be tension, hesitation, resistance, longing, and a constant attempt to keep everything contained. This is why outward behavior can look so disconnected from inward reality. A person can withdraw while thinking about you, They can protect themselves while feeling the cost of that protection. They can act distant while quietly tracking your absence. None of this excuses confusion, and it does not make mixed signals easy to live with. But it does explain why what looks simple from the outside is often painfully split on the inside. If you are still here, notice what this means. Their silence is not always the end of feeling. Sometimes it is the sign of feeling they do not know how to organize. And because they do not know how to organize it, they do what they have always done. They shut the door, then sit on the other side of it listening to the echo. There is also another layer people rarely talk about. Avoidant patterns are not only about fear of closeness. They are often about fear of what closeness will demand after it begins. If they let themselves care, what then? If they admit the bond matters, what changes? Will they be expected to explain themselves, show up consistently, reveal the softer parts they usually hide? Will they be asked to stay emotionally present when every instinct says run? These unspoken questions can create immense pressure inside them. So even when the connection feels good, even when it feels rare, another voice starts whispering about the future cost of surrender. This can turn affection into tension. It can turn chemistry into alarm. And suddenly the person they want to move toward also becomes the person whose presence wakes up panic about responsibility, intimacy, and emotional exposure. That is why they may seem warm one day and shut down the next. Not because the feeling vanished overnight, but because the meaning of the feeling became too big to hold comfortably. This is one of the hardest parts to understand when you are on the receiving end. You think, if it felt good, why leave? But for them, feeling good may be exactly what made it frightening. Because pleasure can lead to attachment. Attachment can lead to vulnerability. And vulnerability can wake up every old defense they built to survive. And once separation happens, the body often knows the truth before the mind is ready to admit it. They may tell themselves they are fine, but the body keeps score in quieter ways. Tightness in the chest, trouble relaxing, a restless jaw, shallow sleep, sudden exhaustion mixed with mental overactivity. They may not say, I miss this person. They may say, I have just been stressed lately. They may not think I feel grief. They may think I cannot switch my mind off. This is how unprocessed attachment often hides. It changes shape and enters through the nervous system. That is why nighttime can become such a difficult space. There are fewer distractions. The body settles. The truth gets closer. Their thoughts may drift toward your voice, your energy, the way you made them feel seen, challenged, safe, alive, or exposed. Then comes the defense. Push it away, change the subject, grab the phone, watch something, sleep later. But suppression takes effort, and effort creates fatigue. This is why some people become tired by the very feelings they refuse to name. They are spending energy fighting what would hurt less if it were simply acknowledged. And that hidden battle can go on for weeks, sometimes months, especially when the bond touched something old and unhealed. Still, the deeper issue is not only that they miss you, it is that you may have disrupted a structure they depended on. Before you, they may have known exactly how to manage life. Stay busy, stay guarded, keep emotions in clean containers, never let anyone close enough to rearrange the inner world. Then a real connection appears and the old system starts failing. They think about someone more than they want to. They care more than feels safe. They notice absence in ways they cannot control. This creates a crisis of self-image. If they are the strong one, why are they restless? If they are the detached one, why do they keep remembering? If they are the independent one, why does losing contact feel so loud? This is where real discomfort begins, because now it is not just about another person. It is about identity, and identity is not surrendered easily. So they may double down on distance, not because it heals them, but because it helps them preserve the version of themselves they know how to live with. Yet underneath that effort, the original disturbance remains. You become linked not only to desire, but to awakening, not only to memory, but to disruption. And that kind of impact is hard to erase. Once someone has shaken the structure, even silence keeps speaking. What makes this even more complicated is that avoidant people often want relief without exposure. They want the ache to stop, but they do not want to open the door that would explain the ache. They want calm, but not the vulnerability required to reach it honestly. So they stay in the middle. They distract themselves. They rationalize. They minimize. They tell a cleaner story than the one they are actually living. Yet the emotional truth keeps leaking through small cracks. A late-night search, an old photo, a conversation revisited in their head, a sudden mood change they cannot account for, a dream that brings everything back. This is the quiet drama of avoidance,